come inside. Today is the Craft and Cook Show leftover day, and Emma and I have a lot of sewing to do on some of our leftover projects and some new ones. So I thought you might as well join us, and it's looking really tidy and it's not going to stay like this for long. So please have a quick look around, and then Emma and I will get started for the day. So Emma and I are just sorting out some things that we need to do today, and Em and I have been together for...
Who's counting?
We stopped counting at 12 years. That's probably more like 17.
No, I had a Matilda and she's 17.
So 16?
Maybe.
16 years. So this is really good, because what it means is that I don't have to have both sides of my brain functioning when Em's here. So I'm the right hand side of my brain, is that right? And you're the left, something like that. But now I'm a very organized person, don't get me wrong, even though I'm creative, that when I get creative and design things, it takes priority over being organized. So Em's able to take, after so long together, she takes what's in here and we can download it together onto paper twice as fast if I'm on my own. So that's what we use Tuesdays for, and it's great. Em's now back in on Tuesdays, so I just save up all these things I need to go through with her, and then we do that on a Tuesday. So we're just planning a new quilt to start for our Chandler's Cottage store as a colour club for next year with fabrics and threads. So we're doing that. We've got a friend's quilt that we're going to now take and turn into a pattern, so we can launch it as a pattern and a kit. And then I'm going to run through what you and I have been working on together. We've been working on together for Craft and Cook, and Em's going to work on getting a couple of those things finished off for us today as well, while I show you a couple of other things upstairs. Okay, so Em, this is where I've got to with this one. And one of Emma's favourite techniques is paper piecing. So I just like showing her that I've done some this week. Hey, but no, look, I showed the girls how to do this last week at the end, and I'm doing my little apple and pear table mat.
Cute.
But I said you can get away with the firm freezer paper even with that. Still be really careful that you don't lose your points. You might even find it better to pre-shape over a sandpaper template like we looked at with pre-shaping in last week's show and previous ones, and using a starch and then getting it stuck down onto your background as quick as you can. So and that's what I ended up doing. I've used my freezer paper, but even when I pulled it out, I still needed a little bit of glue to hold it down. So these are all slip stitched on. I can't brag to you about my slip stitching. I have shown the girls how to do a good invisible slip stitch before, because I've already put the back on. Can't show them. But for those that did grab from us the little starter kit for this, I do have to apologise, because talked about using a couple of the colours to do the leaves up here, and then I realised we haven't talked about how to pre-shape with freezer paper for applique techniques yet, so I thought that was a bit unfair because they're on curves. So by all means, get this going, get the project going, and we will come back to that in a future show, probably about 2 shows away. In the meantime though, what I'm going to do, because I want to get this finished off, I'm going to just do a little running stitch, a little bit like a sashiko stitch on here. So I've chosen a couple of greens. I've got a light olive green, which is, for those that have got this little starter kit, I've chosen 360. You know, Em and I have been friends for a very long time, and that is despite the fact she still doesn't have to wear glasses. She has natural hair colour. Not fair. All right, and this one is 3022. So I've sort of, does that look all right, Em?
Yep.
Chosen those. So I'm just going to do these in a little stitch, and this works well on this fabric too because it's an open weave, so I'll be able to use 6.
Don't forget to strip them and put them back together again.
So the embroiderer is in the house. That means that when you cut your piece, don't just start sewing like we would. You've got to strip, or you
split them apart into 6
first,
put them back together again,
and then they will behave and be friends while you're threading them through the fabric. Yeah? Okay. So that's where I'm at with that one. I'm going to get this done and I'm going to put it up as a little brag shot on Facebook, on my Facebook page on Leesa Chandler Designs for you to have a look at, and I'll pop it in a leftover show in a pretty picture. Show you it's all finished. I might even do it today. Between
You've got a
everything
time
else.
machine?
Yes, Clank Up the Clone Machine. Alright, so that's that. The other thing I still haven't finished are these, but had you seen these?
They've been lurking around.
So it's taking a while, girls, to get these tacked on. I sound like I'm surprised. So I want to get this finished because I've got all the lining ready to go. So this is going to be our lining.
Cute.
I've left the hole in the bottom.
Oh, how clever.
And these are my sides.
Does this fit into a frame?
Yes. It's going in the Flash New frames. And you know, I thought it would be the gunmetal colour, but I think it's still the antique gold. It's really weird. They throw different colours.
The warmth of that.
No
colour.
matter how much Netflix, I still haven't got all the hand sewing done.
Ah, but see if it's Netflix with subtitles.
Oh, that's got to go upstairs with me and Kate. Yes, that is no
You
good.
You can't stitch
You
and
can't
subtitles.
stitch with subtitles, because if you do try and you have a husband that loves commentating, they start commentating the show for you.
You need to introduce him to acupuncture.
What?
He's commentating, you have a needle.
Oh, oh my goodness. Okay, sure. All right, can I show?
Sorry, Rob.
Just one more thing. That I have done. Do you like my needle holder?
I have one. That was from our friend Tim.
It was from our Tim. Oh, look, see, I love mine. It would really help if there was some fine applique needles in there,
Yeah.
which there weren't. Okay, next one.
Oh, Dresden.
Dresden. Hang on, I'll put that down here. Oh, okay. So what I've done is we did in another show, number 3, number 4, somewhere in there. Earlier on.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
We did pre-shaping with curves. I've got another project upstairs I'm going to show you that I want to do a bit more on today, and I actually need a bit of consult with M for. But this is one that we started, and I'm quite happy. Now, the middle's not perfect.
No, but the placement is gorgeous because you can see lovely rings of the pattern, and it just looks sharp. And there's all of these little pointing in.
Well,
Very nice.
yes, and so what I did with the girls, do what I say, not what I do.
Did you try and shortcut?
No, not quite. All right, so I told the girls and the gents, and the gents, to do this with a clear template first, to fussy cut.
Yes.
But I also told them that while they've got it here, to mark a couple of the key elements.
Which we've done in one of our quilts. We've recommended that in the past. Was it the kaleidoscope fans?
Oh, it's the kaleidoscope fans.
Yeah.
Melba.
Yes.
Is that the only one?
I think it's the one where we've actually traced design elements.
Yes, and the new Melba kaleidoscope, yes, in the octagonal blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's another Melba one coming up that is all fussy cut kaleidoscope Melba magic that we've had sitting around. Just, again, I couldn't finish it without Emma and a double shot coffee. So we might do that today or next week. So, and as I talked about with you as well last week, always remember that you can get a shift in the grain, the weave of the fabric from selvage to selvage. So what you do need to do, be really, really careful. If you're going to cut wedges like these for the one particular placemat or whatever you're doing, cut them all from the same side of the bolt, from next to the selvage. Because if it goes off a little bit, if it hasn't been pulled off the loom really nice and straight before it's put onto a bolt, then you'll get a little bit of a movement. So if you're really, really particular, and we were doing the little paper piece pentagons last week for the paper doily cushion, we were talking about that. So, hey, there's no Ginny today. That's what's missing.
That's why Kate was
There's
coughing
no
before.
cat. There's no cat. So be really, really careful. So I didn't do this, so I probably could have even got them a little bit closer. But this is really nice to get done because I've also mentioned to the girls we've got new colours of Melba fans coming.
Yay!
So next week, Emma and I are flat out making things with the first lot of samples through with
I'm
those.
a real fan of that.
You're a fan? She won't be when she's made 5 bags. All right, so that's done. So I did that, and then for pre-shaping, I pieced all the wedges together first in pairs and then into half
straight lines.
Yeah, and then did the twirl, so all of the seams have been pushed round in the same direction. And then I popped this over. So I've got a little picture here to show you actually that Kate will put in to show you how it looked from the back. But it was quick. Now, I made a mistake though. Well, I'm not happy.
Okay.
All right, and the girls will see it in a close-up. So I really wanted to slip stitch this by hand because I got back to slip stitching and I love it, but I was a bit time sensitive to show you today. So I thought, look, it's all pre-shaped, gave it a starch, stuck it onto the background, and I'll blanket stitch it in metallic. But I'm not, because I know, like, it'd be nice to do one, but I need to make at least 6 for Christmas.
Okay. Are these placemats?
Yeah.
Right.
Christmas is at our house. It's all on. So
I think
here
Christmas is at everyone's house.
It's everyone's house this year. I know. So I've used my blanket stitch, but I'm not happy with it. And look, it's going to be a personal choice, but I wanted to keep it quite insignificant and small. And I'm not convinced. I think now it would have looked better if they were larger.
Short stitches further apart, maybe.
Yeah, short stitches further apart. It's too busy. But what I want to show the girls too, because Em and I, we blanket stitch at lightning speed, and you need to be careful. If you have a banana that has a hover foot, then you've got a head start, or if you've got a knee lift, you'll also be in a really good position. But what I just wanted to mention, that if you do take up blanket stitching for applique, you have to be careful where you pivot if you're going around a corner. You've always got to pivot on the solid line on the outside. So if this is my curve here, and this is me sewing, okay? You got it? So you come along here and your stitch will go down and come back up and continue. But at some point, you're going to have to pivot to get around that curve. If you pivot when you're on the inside here, it will create a V instead of nice and straight. So when you do pivot, you've always got to pivot here on the outer of the stitch, and then go in and come back, go back and pivot. Otherwise, that will happen.
And every manufacturer has a different sequence of stitches on their blanket stitch.
That's
so
true.
Learn yours. Because I know the banana has less stitches between legs than other makes.
Is that true?
Yeah, mine does.
What do you mean extra stitches?
Do, whereas banana does one. So you just got to learn. You just got to learn what yours does and work with it. You do. Learn where to pivot.
And you still, so you've got to learn where to pivot, and it's probably to an extent the same thing, that when you choose your blanket stitch length, you've really got to think about how tight your curves are in the pieces.
Yeah.
So if we were doing Maywood Meadow, little flowers, like if you were doing little guys like this, you've got to think how small your stitches would be if you were doing it by hand, and you've got it, and then a little one in the middle. These would have to be really little ones. That is a really bad flower. Thank you for not saying anything, Em. The other thing too, I could have popped a circle in the middle to hide the centre, but we're not going to. We're going to do this instead.
With your pretend serviettes.
With my pretend serviettes. So if you haven't seen this before, this is a little free download pattern. We've all learnt these from different people. Kate says she learned it from a Chinese waiter in a restaurant. And for me, it was my Auntie Ruth. So my Auntie Ruth used to work at the Villa Borghese restaurant on Mount Dandenong Road in Kilsyth as a waitress. And they used to get paid by the boss to take home all the linen serviettes and fold them. And they got paid like a couple of cents each or something. And so she always used to get me to help her when I was at their house. And this has become our stock stable way of entertaining children in restaurants for the last 40 years. And it got Rob and I a free petit four tier of desserts at Scoozy Me's restaurant in Melbourne one night. We went in for dessert and we were waiting to be served, and I got bored and I sat there and I folded and he said, if you show me how to do it, I'll bring you dessert for free. So there you go. It's an investment to learn how to do this. So it is essentially, to make this one up, we've stuck 2 squares of fabric together with Fix or Steamer Seam, whatever paper backed adhesive you use. And this will be a free download pattern. Next week we're going to upload as a little video demo as well onto the YouTube channel. And in the meantime, if you don't need to be that visual a person, it's a free download on the Chandler's Cottage website and on the Textile Pantry one. But we'll be putting up the demo on how to do that next week. So we're having a break next week. 12 shows, mate.
Whew.
So we need to do some cute little things.
Is the show going into hiatus?
It's just having a
very short one.
1 week. But we've got to finish a new website and there's stacks of stuff. So you can imagine after 12 weeks, we just need a break. And we're hoping that we get to go out and about. And Kate and I need to get ready to hit the road, Jack. So it's on. But I think if I do those for Christmas, being serious, that for Christmas, and then make my own fabric starched serviettes, that'd look alright, wouldn't it?
Pretty.
Well, I'll make up the sample one for the video in Christmas, Aussie Christmas red and gold. That'll be a thing. All right. So I've done some of my homework. Okay. So the other thing that Em's going to work on this morning while we have a look upstairs is back to our pointed Dresdens that we did a couple of weeks ago, and we've done a table runner with them. I'm working on gold and black fans, and we've made table runners and mats with them. But I've taken a red one and we're actually going to make 2 semicircles, so the Dresden in half if you like, into a bag and see how that comes up. So first thing I've done is I've pieced my 2, you can see that, I've pieced my 2 halves of my pointed Dresden in the red, and they've come up okay. They could be any colour, it doesn't really matter, but I want to get them into a bag. So what I was thinking, Em, is if we did one of them is a pocket, and I don't know which way up to do it.
Right.
So one is a pocket, and then one is a flap on the other side.
I concur with that way.
She concurs. So I thought that the bag would essentially be black, and that we might use that for a gusset around the outside. Does that make sense? So a bit like the studio bag and a couple like that. So we've already done a couple of bag techniques. We did a curved base one, and we did another one called a wraparound base and sides, which is like...
That's base and sides,
Yeah,
or do you
this
mean
one.
that way?
So that was the wraparound base and sides, where we had our separate base, and the front and back panels come wrap round to the side, and you've got a side seam. So we've covered that one, I know, in a show. But this one, which is our satchel bag, is actually a wraparound, what we call wraparound base and side. So it has one piece that goes right round. And you can choose whether that it's all the same width or whether you want to narrow it off on the ends. So we will cover, I think we'll need to do that in a show with a couple of other examples with things we've got coming up. Oh, with some paper piercing.
Wash your mouth out.
Oh, last week, I ended up with so many UFOs after last week's show to do for leftovers. Okay, so if this is going to be, I have made notes. I've already started. So that I can just look impressive and draw it up for you. Right. So if this is going to be the pocket on one side. So what will happen is, I want the whole bag. Do you mind if I draw rough, or do you want a ruler?
No, draw rough.
So with the whole bag, this is going to be 11 inches tall.
Whole bag, yep.
And then this is 15. So I've sort of worked off the width of these. These are 14. So that allows a little bit on each side. So that's the whole bit, and this is going to be 8 inches tall. So this bit here, just so the girls can see, it's going to be 8 inches tall. So that's going to come up to about there. So that'll be 8, and there'll be 3 showing.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be black as well. I just want it mainly a black bag.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be, if we call this the front for the purpose of giving it a name. So what that will mean is that if we are going to run a strip of a fabric right round, this will be 11 plus 11 is 22 plus 15 is 37.
Mm-hmm.
Is 37 inches. Plus we
seam
need
allowance.
seam allowance. So we'll need a strip that goes right round. And I want to use this fabric, hence the problem,
Directional.
because it's directional. So what we'll need to do with this is actually cut 2 pieces and then join them so they go that way. So as they come up the side of the bag, all the wisteria and the flowers are up the right way. Yeah. So we're going to run with that one. And then on, so that'll be the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, it will actually be really similar, but we've got a flap now hanging down over the top. So we'll have the same thing, and we'll have a plain black pocket that will go up to 8 inches high, same as the front,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be plain. And then we're going to have a flap
Mm-hmm.
that comes down over the top. And it won't, I don't know if it can come right over from the other side, or whether it's just got to hang on this side as a flap.
It might depend how deep we make the gusset at this point, if we taper
Yeah,
or not.
I actually think it might need to be separate. Oh, if we taper it.
If we taper it, you'll be able to come from the other side over more readily.
So
yes.
that you've got that.
Yep.
So you better flip over. And if you're going to flip over and we've got one strap from one side to the other, then we can't have separate handles.
Correct.
So if we, which is fine. So if we do that over from there to there, 2
Mhm.
things, we'll need to put a bag base in because it's quite wide, like
Mhm.
15 is quite wide, so it doesn't buckle. But also what we'll need to do is make sure that the flap is narrower than the width of the bag, so it can
Just
fit
ever so
between
much.
the handles. So if we made that 14 and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will come over.
And now the tapered point of our gussets needs to be wide enough to accommodate the width of our strap.
Yes. Glad she thought of that now. Okay, so you can, so if
Much
we made
like
this, yeah, so
'cause we've
it
taken
can,
a little.
can it be narrower than that though? I
Yeah.
don't want one. So
Yeah,
if we
it can
start
be as
it,
narrow as the strap.
maybe just 2. I just want it to put, it's all about me. I want it to put my my iPad in and my notebook. So we have 2 at the bottom and go up to 1 at the top
Mm-hmm.
with a 3/4 inch strap,
Mm-hmm.
roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then the only other thing I did, I got a bit carried away because I was doing the Dresden placemat. I pinned all of the Dresden on, and there's a little bit of glue under there too, and I popped an adhesive tearaway onto the back so that it was nice and stable to blanket stitch around these. And then I went, that's a waste of my time. So that's not going to happen, because Em and I can put a thin adhesive palette straight onto that, and then as we blanket stitch it on, it will quilt it at the same time. So we'll back both the lining, both back the flap and the pocket with the lining and the palette, and we can get the blanket stitch done, get all the pieces cut out, and then we can put the bag together. So I'm going to leave that with you, because she can do it with her eyes shut. I'll leave that with you, and we might pop upstairs and I'll show you what else I've been doing this week. So, welcome to my studio. So this is my little secret space upstairs in our warehouse. I've tried to get Kate to put the camera in a particular spot so you can't see the mess. So I've got some little inspirational shelves behind me where I keep a lot of my precious things from things I sewed years ago, and a few little things for inspiration. But besides that, if I showed you this room, you'd be terribly disappointed. It's very boring and it's very white, and one of the reasons for that is that I work in so many different colours and designs. If I have a particular colour theme or a style to my office, it clashes and inhibits design work. So I need a really pristine white, clean, if you like, inert area to work in, so that there aren't colours on the walls that will reflect onto my colour work when I'm designing fabric. And I've got lots of blank walls to hang things on when I'm designing, and just for planning lots of times for production of fabrics, product releases, marketing ideas. So you've got one little bit here. Maybe I'll tidy it up a bit more and you can see a bit more next time. But anyway, while we're upstairs, I've left Em's downstairs working on that bag. I thought I'd show you another project that I was working on from one of our leftovers, but also because we are up here, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an insight to what I work with for colouring fabric. So there are a couple of different things that I do, just as a little snapshot. One of the things that I use a lot, that I've learnt to use, is this little book, and this is a Pantone colour book, but it's a very special one because all of the colours that are in it have been printed onto fabric. So there are lots of different ones that you can get. Some of them are on a matte card and on a gloss card. They're really good if you're printing onto paper and stationery and beautiful calendars, photography, all those sorts of things. But if you are printing onto fabric, you need a special one of these. So I have one, and the factory in Japan has one. So when we talk in colour, in a colour language, we're speaking the same language. So I'll just carefully open this up. This is the most expensive book I will ever buy. You'd be horrified if you knew how many hundreds this cost. So if I just open that up and show you, you can see literally all the colours of the rainbow in there. So when we come to design new fabric, this is what I use as a starting point for getting the colour right. Now things change. If we have to layer one colour up over another to create a different one, that's a little bit of a challenge. If we're working on a light background or a dark background, lots of things influence it. But I can say to the guys in Japan, I would like to work with colour 18-3022 TCX, which means it's on textile medium, and they'll be able to look in the same book in Japan and actually know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's one way. The other way, of course, that I work, if I'm designing fabrics that go with an existing range like Under the Australian Sun, then I will be able to refer to the selvage on any of my current fabrics, and they have a record of that as well, so they know exactly which colour I'm talking about. So when you look on the selvage on your fabrics, you'll find there are little colour dots, maybe in different shapes, but all different colour dots on the selvage. They are all of the screens, if you like, the different colour screens that have been used to create the fabric that you have. So that leads on to the final way. If I've designed one of those fabrics, when we first get strike-offs or samples from the factory, they don't come with it already printed on the selvage. I get them on little things like this, a little colour tab. This one has 6 different greys and blacks, and I'm pretty sure from looking at it that is from my Summer Palace Black Dragon fabric. So this one is yet to be cut up, and what I actually do is when I get all of those little samples left over, I cut them up into little squares. This is my thinking time. If I'm not paper piecing or machine quilting, it's thinking time. So I just come up here for 5 minutes if I've got a problem to solve, and I cut them all up into little squares, and then I'll get Kate to take a photo for you, but then I sort them into different little glass jars like this, and I keep them all in here. So this is for when I start a brand new collection that might be in a colour palette I haven't worked in before, or I really want to step away from what I have done in the past and not be guided by, take myself out of my comfort zone if you like. Then I will literally play with these like pulling paints or pencils from a box to create a colour palette. And there's so many different ways you can do it. I do these with the cloth ones, but if you want to have a play with different fabrics for designing a quilt, then you can always pop into the hardware store and grab a heap of colour cards from the paint department and cut those up and use those as well. That's great fun. They're sick of seeing me in Bunnings. So once we've worked out the colours we want to use and how many, I actually pop these into what we call a pitch sheet. And this is one here I've just pulled out to show you. This was from one of the Under the Australian Butterfly prints. So if you just see that there. So what we actually do, there's a little square for each of the screens or the colours we're going to use, and I put a reference in there. So it will be from the Pantone book, it'll reference one of my existing fabrics and which colour tab on the selvage that I wish to use, or I will get one of these little squares here, pull this off, and I will stick it into the little squares, and that all gets sent off to the factory with my designs into their art studio for them to review and have a look at, and then we move on to doing the actual artwork. So sometimes when we do the artwork to start as well, we don't work in the colours straight off that we are going to use for the finished product. And this is really important because when we're working out what colour's going to go where, we need to be able to clearly see the definition for shading and between one screen to the next. So if I'm doing big waratahs and I need 6 or 7 different reds, and then I want red Sturt P around them and red flowering gum, that's all fine, but to work out which red's used where is really hard at the start. So what we do is we colour them kind of way outside their comfort zone to start with. So these are a sneak peek at the artwork for the remake of the original Under the Australian Sun Waratah print that will be out in 2021. We were going to do it this year, but of course, due to everything, we've delayed until we can launch it at our exhibition next year. So just to give you an idea, I wanted to show you. So you can see here, this is one of the bouquets that's in the remake of that big print. And this time it'll have waratahs and banksias all in the same design. And they're like last time, there will be 6 different bouquets. So you can see here, we've really gone out with the colours. So we've got pink waratahs with red banksias. We've got wattle in the right colour. But, oh, and there's some orange in there as well. It all doesn't go together. It's a real mixed fruit salad. But this is really good for us because we can clearly see where each of the colours are being used. So I'll just show you a couple of other ones. So this one here has got some wax plant and some paper daisies or heliochrysum in it. We've got the flowering gum. I'm actually missing one where it's gone. We're going to frame these, Kate, and we're going to put them in the ladies' room downstairs so that there's something on the walls. There you go. So you can see there are lots of different colours all together, and it is really hard to deal with them sometimes when I just want to see them in their finished colour, but this is an important step. So once these are done, and we put it together with the pitch sheet so we know where the colours are going and what the colours are going to be, then we can take that big step into etching the screens that are used for screen printing the fabrics. And that's where all of the gold outline on my fabrics or the outline of the motifs are. And then once they're done, they can't be changed. And then we go forward and do what they call strike offs. So we'll actually do trial runs of just half a yard to them, half a metre to a metre of fabric to get the colours right. So once we get to that stage, that pitch sheet becomes really, really important. So that's where I'm at with these. And we are just a couple of steps back from that as well and designing a new Japanese Imperial Garden range. So they will all be out next year. So I'm at the final design stage for the Japanese range, and I haven't even touched the pitch sheets yet, but we've started to play a little bit with colour for fun. And with this one, I'm up to, with Under the Australian Sun, I'm up to the final colouring stage. So we've got the artwork from the factory now for us to check all the colours off, which we need to do quite quickly to get it done now. And then we'll start doing strike-offs to see what they look like. And they won't be pink and red together, I can guarantee. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a hint into what I do with colours. Now, we'll just push all this aside. And you can probably see trucks going past in the background. If you haven't been here before, we're in an industrial estate here, so which is really handy for work and close to home for us as well. And look, I like trucks, so it's perfectly fine if they go up and down all day outside. But I've got great light in this room. I've got windows right round, so it's really good again for colour. So we'll pop that precious book aside. When I go overseas for work, a lot of samples go into the suitcase, but that book stays with me in my hand luggage. Because again, we use it to talk face to face a couple of times a year when we can with the guys from Japan. Now, on to the final thing for my UFOs this week. So if you remember back, we did shaped curves over the sandpaper with a little gathering stitch. I have strip sewn together, like we talked about, a whole heap of Christmas coloured fabrics, and I've put some Pellin on the back, and then I have shaped them round and sandpaper template. So I've got all my scrap little strips that I've all put together. Okay, and then I have put a little circle of the Pellin on the back and done my little gathering stitch and pulled them up. So I've got one here to show you. So that's what he looked like with the circle drawn on and a little gathering stitch around the outside. And then I popped a piece of pellin on. So here's one here that's got the pellin adhered onto the back, obviously not including the seam allowance. And then that was my sandpaper template. So he has been popped on, and I've pulled that little gathering stitch up and over, taken the sandpaper out and giving him a really good press with starch. So I've got about 8 of these made up now, and I thought it'd be really nice to put them onto a background like baubles hanging down to put in the long window at our front door for Christmas. And I've chosen this fabric for the background, so that's my gold there, and these will sit over that like that. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to take these back downstairs and we're going to cut a big long bit of the gold to pop them on. I have forgot to measure how long the window is today, but that's okay. Rob's working from home, so I'll give him a quick call and ask him, and then I might consult with them downstairs about what we can do to create the string or the braid that the balls are going to sit on. So let's go. Okay, so because we are at the warehouse today, I thought, what am I going to do for my leftover recipe? So what I have done is brought in some watermelon, and that pickled ginger cucumber salad we did last week, I'm going to give it a whirl with some watermelon. I've brought in some fancy cocktail glasses for the girls and I to have after lunch, and I've brought some mint, I've got the sugar and the cider vinegar and my ginger here. And this is going to be a really easy recipe to make up really anywhere, I think. I think it'd be really nice if you were going out to a girlfriend's place. You could just stand and have a glass of bubbles while making this up to have after lunch. Anyway, while I get these melon balls ready, let's have a look at some of the photos that you've sent in this week for us. First of all, big congrats to Anne Nichols, who made these folded coasters. Now, this was a little demo that I did during our Chandler's Cottage live Facebook feed last week, and they look fantastic. Well done. This is just a great little project to make up, and we might have to do that as a little YouTube demo for you as well, I think, and pop it on the YouTube channel. Josie has made 2 fantastic tea cozies, and you can see they've got their matching placemats with them, or little coasters I should say, and most appropriately one of them is done with my Melba fabric for Tea with Melba, and another one actually has teacups on it, so they are just gorgeous. Jenny Ford sent in this awesome Mandela quilt. Now, this has been done with a beautiful collection of batiks in a Mandela style, and you can see it's got some gorgeous Australian flowers in it. So that is just fantastic, Jenny, and I'm hoping you're going to let us hang that for our exhibition next year. Christine Lunadelli, and I hope I'm saying that right, Christine, 2 gorgeous things from you this week. We're loving this table runner with Under the Australian Sun, and in fact, we are in the process of reprinting that border stripe at the moment, so that's a big encouragement to me, and that's just stunning. Love it. And again, I hope you'll let us share that in person next year. And also these little drawstring bags. So way back at show number 1, we had a play with creating your own drawstring bags or little fabric baskets, and these are very cute, so I'm really pleased you sent us a photo. And finally, Pat Goss, big shout out to you this week. You have taken our concept of the Dresden table mat that we did and we had a look at earlier in the show, and Pat has done hers with machine embroidery, which is super clever, and she stitched out a little Australian flower in the middle. So they are all fantastic, and please keep the photos coming in because we just love to share them with everyone. I am going to get really messy in a moment and cut down to the next layer in this watermelon, so I'm going to do that, and then we can go back and see how Emma's getting on. So we hope you've enjoyed today's little show and a little bit of an insight into our studio for the Leesa Chandler YouTube show. Now, I just want to show you where Em's up to. So we have blanket stitched our little half Dresdens, and she's got all of the bag panels all cut out here. Oh, this one's got its pocket on for the back and the side gussets all pieced together. So we're going to get this finished off, and I look forward to showing it to you really soon. And look, thank you so much for supporting us. We've done 12 shows now for the Craft and Cook show, and we think we need a week's break, so we're going to take one next week, but mainly so that we can do a few little extra demo videos to add to the YouTube channel and also get prepared to take the show on the road. So thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming subscriber specials, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.